Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, welcome to our SMP Capacity Building Training Webinar Series, Module 3, Future of SMPs, Business Diversification through Offering New Services. My name is Irina Gordeladze. I'm a WorldBank consultant, and I will be moderating today's session. Let me start with some housekeeping issues. Please select your language preference. German channel is for the Georgian translation, and we will also have a Russian translation. You can type your questions that you might have during the session at any time in the Q&A box, starting with your name and organization, please, and preferably in English, if possible. Also, please note that the event is being recorded. Video recording and slides with hyperlinks to the resources will be available after the event. For the Georgian audience, it can be found at saras.g, and for the rest, it will be emailed, distributed via email. That's basically it for the housekeeping. Please allow me to welcome Sebastian Molineux, WorldBank Regional Director for South Caucasus, who will deliver the welcoming remarks. Over to you, please, Sebastian.
Thank you so much, Irina and colleagues. It is a great pleasure to welcome you to this EU WorldBank event on the future of SMPs and business diversification. As always, I wish we could be doing this in person and not virtually online. But given the circumstances, this probably still is the safest way of delivering and sharing knowledge with one another on what I think is a very important topic. Now, as colleagues, as you all know, the World Bank has been at the forefront of reforms in corporate financial reporting and audit in Georgia for a number of years now, through our regional STAREP program, and presently through our EU and World Bank joint financial inclusion and accountability project. And with this support of the EU, we were able to launch a series of webinars, online webinars like we're having now, for small and medium-sized accountancy practices, or SMPs, to improve their capacity, your capacity, and crisis adaptability during these very challenging times. Now, following the first webinar for SMPs, Rising to Coronavirus Challenge, which was held almost a year ago, the project, with support of the Georgian professional accountancy organizations and SARAS, conducted a small survey of small SMPs to assess the impact and the implications of the coronavirus pandemic on the market for audit services in Georgia. Now, this report, the report of the survey of auditors and audit firms on the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the market for audit services in Georgia, was published in August 2020. And the results of the survey are rather interesting and suggest that many SMPs in Georgia are interested in learning how they can best manage their practices and really to pivot towards advisory services. And the digital transformation to improve operational efficiency and to improve the quality and relevance of professional service offering is central to this. Now, based on the survey findings, last autumn, we launched the SMP Capacity Building Training Webinar Series, which is a set of online training modules to help build the capacity of SMPs here in Georgia. And as you will appreciate, capacity and relevant skills are necessary for all stakeholders involved in the financial reporting process. And it concerns four key players, to my mind. First and foremost, the financial statement preparers, whether working in small businesses, large corporations, or state-owned enterprises. Second, financial advisors and auditors who support companies in all sectors, as well as internal auditors in public and in the private sectors. Three, regulators and a broad range of stakeholders, including professional accountancy organizations, government agencies, and the likes. And then fourth and finally, let us not forget the broader investment community and public, which constitutes the users of financial statements. Now, without the right capacity and human capital, the best accounting and auditing standards, the most dedicated regulators and enforcement mechanisms will simply not be effective. And it's with this in mind that we at the World Bank are working with the profession, really in lockstep, to ensure that we can really ensure that everyone is as well trained and motivated as possible, ready to embrace the new ways of working with businesses, especially the smaller ones, and really to maximize their potential and to act as trusted advisors. And I ask of you, really all of you, let us perhaps today try to commit to jointly tackle the barriers to better financial information and promoting greater financial literacy, better governance, and improved accountability. Now, today, Paul Thompson, who is the director of the European Federation of Accountants and Auditors for SMEs and a World Bank consultant, who leads the series, will be joined by Aleksandra Zaronina, who is the head of SME Professional Insights at the ACCA. And she's also joined by Anastasia Chalkidou, who is the chair of the Greek Advisory Committee at ACCA. Participants will learn from really this very distinguished set of speakers why SMPs must offer new and improved services. And we hope that the knowledge that is going to be shared today will be useful for you, and not only useful, but will really help contribute to building more resilient practices that are ready to face the new challenges in this very complex, dynamic, and ever-changing era that we currently live in. And so with this in mind, and in conclusion, I would like to really thank our partners in these online webinars and series, the EU delegation in Georgia, as this webinar really is taking place under, as I had previously mentioned, the framework of the EU World Bank Joint Project on Financial Inclusion and Accountability. But I would also really like to thank the ACCA for the readiness to support this important agenda here in Georgia and for offering this very important contribution today. So very much my sincere thank you. And with that, again, I will conclude by wishing you a great workshop today. And I know that you are in the best of hands with both Irina and, a fantastic lineup of speakers. So with that, thank you so much for your attention. Irina, back over to you.
Thank you, dear Sebastian, so much for joining us today. I will now pass the word to Paul Thompson. Paul, over to you, please.
Thank you, Irina, and thank you very much, Sebastian, for such a nice welcome address for myself, Anastasia, and for Aleksandra. I plan today to just spend about 10 minutes to recap on what we've already covered in this webinar series, in the extent to which it relates to business diversification. And in particular, by that, I mean small and medium-sized practices starting to offer services other than their core compliance stuff. Typically, we're referring there to advisory services. So I'm just going to spend about 10 minutes of that. But as you can see, the main course, if you will, for today will be Aleksandra and Anastasia. And then we plan to, just prior to my closing, we will have an interactive Q&A, question and answer session that Irina will moderate for us. So by way of a recap, in the very first module, we had some guest presenters from IFAC, the International Federation of Accountants. And basically, they told us that there always has been, over the last few years, a very good case for small and medium-sized practices transforming. COVID-19, in effect, accelerated and intensified that need for small and medium-sized practices to start to transform their practice operations. I will touch on elements of what we heard from IFAC in a couple of slides in a few moments. But before I do that, I'd like to quote for you from a ACCA publication that dates back to June 2020. And if you'll recall, June 2020, 10 months ago now, we were right in the thick of the first wave of the pandemic. There were widespread lockdowns around the world, and the ACCA had conducted a global survey of its membership, including many small and medium-sized practices around the world, and also in the region of Georgia and the surrounding countries. And they concluded as follows: more than ever before, the SMP is the trusted advisor to smaller businesses, and the COVID-19 crisis is a call to arms for smaller accountancy firms to transform further. Digital transformation of SMPs is key to accelerating the pace of change, ensuring durability, and driving better understanding of client needs. The ACCA went on to say that SMPs now have superb client opportunities to diversify in areas such as improving business resilience and continuity, supply chain management, and broader digital transformation. As catalysts for innovation, SMPs can help businesses develop new revenue streams, transform their business models, and support growth and share best practices. But this demands new capabilities and skills within the firm, and potentially culture change too. This is what we mean by practice transformation, and this is what IFAC spoke to us to in the first of this webinar series. So what did they tell us in general terms? What did IFAC tell us in terms of what they understood by practice transformation, and in particular in relation to the diversification of service offerings? Well, using the Practice Transformation Action Plan, a roadmap to the future, this is a publication that IFAC pushed out in May 2020. So it's very timely, as you can imagine. It literally came out around the time that we're all deep in lockdown as a result of the coronavirus. And the beauty with this action plan is that we've managed to already get it translated into Georgian, and the readings and references at the end of this PowerPoint slide presentation will include links to that, as indeed is the link here on the page in front of you. So there's a Georgian version, and we believe that a Russian version is on its way. As far as IFAC are concerned, practice transformation has four primary aspects to it. One is the need for SMPs to embrace the need for change and to take it on enthusiastically as possible. Secondly, the need to leverage technology to start to accelerate the digitalization of their practices. Thirdly, to focus on the need to more actively and intensely manage talent within their practices, make sure that you got the right people, that the right people are educated and trained to deliver the new types of services you might offer, as well as be comfortable with new technologies. And fourth and finally, IFAC said that small and medium-sized practices should evolve their firm operating model and build the capacity to offer advisory services. And this is why this is the focus of today's presentation, and which will be the main part of what we hear from Anastasia and Aleksandra. But before I hand over to them, I just have a couple of slides of recap then on what we heard from IFAC. As far as IFAC were concerned, building advisory services demands five things. First of all, it entails a shift, if you like, of focus from a transaction type model to that of strategic service offering. So in other words, rather than just discreetly offer a particular service to a client, rather that you have a much deeper, more ongoing, more strategic relationship with the client. There's more continuous communication, for example. Secondly, building advisory services demands a re-evaluation of the services that are currently being offered, and it demands a renewed focus on how you go about promoting, selling and marketing those service offerings. That might be somewhat different to offering standard compliance services such as audit and accounts preparation. IFAC also suggested that there's value in carving out a niche market for yourself. Small and medium-sized practices often are not that large by definition, and therefore it may be appropriate for them to focus on a particular segment of the market, particular industry, for example, or to focus on a small number of types of advisory services and get really expert at delivering those services. IFAC also suggested that there's good reason to consider leveraging and using networks, associations and alliances. And there are many of these around. Typically they operate internationally, cross-border. And in fact, the next webinar, the fourth webinar in the series, which will be held on the 20th of May, I have a guest speaker who will talk just to this topic about how you can think about joining a network or an association in order to add value to the services of your clients. Fifth and finally, IFAC suggested that you conduct a regular strategic review, an appraisal, if you like, of your strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. It doesn't necessarily need to be that sophisticated. It's just that periodically you step back and just take a closer look and examination at yourself and your capabilities. IFAC then went on to say, to stress that small and medium-sized accountancy firms, you already have a great asset. And that asset is your in-depth knowledge, your expertise, and the trusted relationships that you already have with your clients. And building business advisory services can be built off the back of those relationships that already exist. As far as IFAC is concerned, advisory is valued because it attempts to address the challenges, the opportunities, the threats that SMEs are already, the clients are already facing right now. And obviously right now, for example, the primary challenge is one of coping with a very different environment because of the lockdown around the global pandemic, and also their ability to come out of lockdown and grow and build their businesses again. Now, when it comes to considering advisory services or what new service lines to offer, IFAC closed by saying that this is always going to be a gradual process. You're never going to go full on straight into it. It's going to demand a series of small calibrated steps. There's no need to take on the most sophisticated and complex and high level of advisory services. You might start with something relatively simple and straightforward. IFAC also said that it was worth packaging services in such a way that they are easy to understand for the SME client. They emphasized the need to consider specialization and niche markets, as I've already mentioned. And they did say that if you're not already embracing the cloud, then now is certainly the time to do so. Cloud accounting systems are likely to play a key role. So that concludes my recap for today. I now wish to hand over to Anastasia and to Aleksandra.
Thank you so much, Paul, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aleksandra Zaronina Kirillova. I'm head of SME Professional Insights at ACCA, Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. I'm really thankful for this opportunity to be here today to present our reflections on the diversification of the service offering by SMPs. Sorry, I just have an issue with changing the slide. All right, I think it's working now. So in terms of the structure and how we would like to organize our presentation and discussion with Anastasia today. So I'll start with a very short introduction on who we are, ACCA, then what we do in terms of professional insights and how actually this can be used by the attendees of today's seminar for supporting you in diversifying your service offering, in developing your practices. And then I think we'll share some reflections on the SMP service diversification. And the final part, the most interesting part, will be the case study and the story of Anastasia Chalkidou, who will be sharing her experience in diversifying her practice service offering. So just to start with who we are, ACCA, Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. We were founded in 1904. We are a non-for-profit organization with over 227,000 members and more than 550,000 future members around the world. Our purpose is to bring the accountancy qualification and to build fairer societies with the help of the accountancy profession. And in addition to the qualification that we are providing globally, we also have our professional insights department within the organization. With our professional insights, we are answering today's questions, we are preparing for tomorrow, we're looking at the trends of the future, trying to support the accountancy professionals, trying to support the resilience of the accountancy profession in the future. We're looking at very different areas in terms of our professional insights, from very technical areas such as audit to some technology areas such as the use of robotics in the accountancy. And of course, one of our very important focuses within the professional insights work is the support of the small and medium-sized practices and small and medium businesses. Just on the next slide, I put a link to our professional insights application. All of the material that we are publishing within the professional insights is free of charge. It's in open access, and if you are interested in any specific topic, you are very welcome to visit our website. In addition to this professional insights activity, also we've recently launched a Practice Connect Hub. That's a depository with all the practical information, reports, checklists, podcasts, webinars to support small and medium-sized practitioners. You can find very different type of information on starting a practice, growing a practice, and diversification of your businesses, diversification of your service lines is one of the central topics there, along with digitalization. So you're very welcome to take a look at the website. If you have any further questions, if you have any further interest, the information is organized there for you. In addition to the existing material, we also publish the information about the events that are planned to support the SMPs across different geographies. So again, don't hesitate to take a look at the page and see if there are any topics of interest for you. In terms of other features, I would say the central feature of the Practice Connect Hub is the practice room. And again, that could be an interesting source for you to connect with your peers from around the world. That's a series of virtual sessions that are led by our members, by SMP owners, by those who are managing their practices themselves. And in those virtual discussions, those hosts, practice leaders are sharing their insights on very different topics related to practice management. And of course, digitalization, diversification is again one of the topics that's being discussed by the practice from hosts. Those sessions are open for everyone interested, so you don't need to be an ACCA member to access those sessions. We've shared the link to the practice room in the pre-readings material. You can easily access the calendar, find one of the sessions for your interest. Just to give you the impression on how much is planned, we have more than 40 sessions planned for the next 6 months. So I'm sure everyone can find something that's of interest for you and for the development of your practice. All right, so just back to the topic of today's. I will be sharing with you the insights on the S&P service diversification based on the two reports that we developed, the Passionate Practitioner developing the digitalized small and medium-sized practice, and a quick guide to digitalization and business diversification for SMPs that was developed by our colleagues from Singapore. I really warmly welcome you to take a look more in detail at those two reports. They contain a wealth of case studies, of practical examples, and even though the report that was put together by our colleagues in Singapore does contain some specific elements that are relevant for Singapore, the overall framework is universal, and I'm sure you will be able to apply it also for your practices wherever you are based. So starting the diversification topic, I would once again reiterate the importance of digitalization that was already highlighted by Paul, and I'm sure that was discussed in the previous sessions, but this is just to once again say that this I would name it is the central element in proceeding with your diversification. Based on the interviews that we conducted around the world with the SMPs, with the practitioners, we put together those 5 main points that were highlighted almost in every interview by every practitioner on what the digitalization brings to their practice and what it actually means for diversification. So first of all, it's the revenue and growth. In digitalization, the dynamics of the practice changes, and the basis upon which the fees are collected, for example, as Paul already was mentioning, is changing from traditional time and material basis to value-added principles. And this is when you can offer services to clients on a monthly basis for a fee. And this also changes the dynamics on how the practice is run and gives you the time and opportunity to think of diversification and how you proceed with your journey there. It also very much relates to the identifying the client bases. By digitalizing your practices, you are removing the traditional boundaries, you are removing the geographic borders, and also you can think of clients no matter where they are based geographically. And as a step, you need to consider what the client base is that you wish to target. Is it the client base within your country, or is it the client base within certain industry? And this also opens you the boundaries for diversification. For example, if you would like to look at working with some companies who are looking to open their businesses in your respective country, that could be one of the ways, and digitalization here is definitely one of the very important support factors. Managing the workload. Well, we all know that traditional accountants have workloads with some very cyclical peaks around the tax deadlines, while digitalized accountants have a more even workload and information is more regularly updated. And you can be working with that information on an ongoing basis. This frees a considerable amount of time for you that gives you this opportunity to pause and think on how you can further develop your practice, on how, based on the existing service offering, you can start thinking of something new. You can always pause and reflect on the needs of your customers more, and that's definitely is a huge benefit for the practitioners. The working practices, and that's another very important aspect. Working practices are changing with the digitalization. You are providing more flexibility to your employees, and this can help you attract the right talent, the right mindsets to your practice, and that can help your practice grow and diversify. That can help you bring the people who have fresh ideas, who are more interested in flexible working, who might be interested, for example, in working with you on just a part-time basis. And that can help you also nurture the culture of change within your practice that is so important for the first steps towards diversifying. And of course, people and skills. Well, the obvious thing is that, well, yes, Indeed, you need to have more technically savvy people on board in your practice, but it's not the only change in terms of people and skills, because with the use of digital tools, you are also getting access to more data. So you need more analytical minds, you need more people who can do the storytelling for your clients, who can analyze the data, and based on the data that you have available, thanks to digitalization, offer some new ideas to your clients and offer some new ideas to yourself on what else could be offered to the clients. And of course, it all leads us to the value-added services. It's thanks to the digitalization that you have the ability to support your clients as a truly trusted advisor, not only in the compliance area, but in the very broad business development area, in the digitalization, in many other areas that might be of interest for them to get support from your side. So the next slide illustrates the image on how we summarized the evolutionary way towards diversification and internationalization. This is just one of the scenarios that we suggest based on the findings of our report, that was put together by our colleagues in Singapore. So you start with the implementation of cloud technology, then you proceed to automation, business diversification, and consequently, it also brings you the opportunity to internationalize your services. But again, as I added a remark on the screen, this is just one of the possible scenarios. Sometimes you can just start with implementing some of the digital elements to the practice that will spare your time. You might wait a bit with automation of the processes, and you can go directly and start thinking of business diversification. But that's to highlight once again how important those steps in digitalization are, and I would say that that's the essential component in your journey, starting to diversify your services. And of course, to push the diversification, it's necessary to it's necessary in general for the resilience, for the sustainable development of your businesses, of your firm, and of your clients. And it's possible when you have the capacity and the capability to do so, and when your practice is ready. And there are some key factors to consider when you are starting your journey towards that. First of all, transformation will take time, and it's not something that will happen within a day or even a couple of months. So you need to be ready to invest your time, and you need to look at the investment that you are putting there, not as an expense, but as an investment. The time, the resources that you put into digitalization, into developing the skills of your companies, that's an investment towards the future resilience of your practice. Of course, a very important part of that is having the right mindset. And I think sometimes it can seem something very ephemeric, what's the right mindset, but it's just starts with the conversation with your team. Just explain to them why you would like to implement the changes. Explain also to your clients that actually you're on the way of rethinking the way you deliver your services, so that they do not perceive you as a traditional audit and assurance provider, but they understand the value of the type of services that you can provide to them. And again, digitalization is essential, because with all the data that you can have from digitalizing your processes, you can demonstrate and illustrate better what it will bring also to the businesses of your clients. But again, it's the matter of explaining what it will mean for the future of your employees, for the future of your company, and even for their professional growth in the future. Of course, there might be risks and uncertainties in that process. You can be analyzing the processes of diversification, but you can never be certain that everything will be working according to the plan. And peer-to-peer support is very important. So I think reaching out to the community, be it via the informal communities, and you have many of them, and this is once again reminding you of the practice room by ACCA, that's an opportunity, or just reaching out to some professional networks, joining network organizations can be very helpful on your journey on that, because someone who has already done that is always willing to share the experience. And it's really impressive to see how open the practitioners from around the world are in sharing their success stories, but also some lessons learned, some not so successful stories, and just reach out to the community. Don't forget that you always can get support from your peers. In terms of diversification of pathways, just analyzing the process and summarizing the process in one of our reports that's put together by our colleagues in Singapore, we put together those 7 steps, where to start, how to kickstart that process. And of course, the first one there is to identify which services are in demand in your market. Later on, I have a slide that summarizes some of the services that are in demand based on our conversations with the practitioners from around the world. But again, those are just examples, and you really need to look at your respective market and understand what's being demanded by the businesses within your specific market, within your specific country or focus area. Then the second one is just looking at unpacking your own services, the services that you are offering now. Every service your firm currently is providing, it's composed of different component services that may be developed as separate service lines. So, for example, your firm may be offering statutory audit as a single service. However, this service in itself contains some components to that. So think how you can break down the services, the big services that you are providing, into the smaller ones, and if those already can become some smaller service lines under your offering to the client. Again, link those services that you have unpacked from your current offering with the services and demand, and of course always keep that in line with analyzing what are your strengths in terms of talent that you have on board, in terms of the technical expertise that you have, in terms of the technical tools that you are already analyzing, how all the existing tools and resources that you have on board align with the demand that is existent on the market. The next point that we are suggesting is identifying which of these services that are both in demand and that can be provided by you, given the existing skills and existing resources, are expected to raise the productivity levels. And there you can take a look more in detail at our report. We analyze different types of services in terms of their levels of productivity. And you can, based on that, you can identify which ones you would like to focus on. And this brings us to the 5th point: identify your target services. So what's demanded on the market? What you have in terms of strengths and resources? What are the services that are more, that are raising the productivity level? And out of those, which are the ones that you would like to target as your future services in terms of the diversification? And then finally, the 6th step, you will have identified your current and target services, and just proceed by assessing what skill sets and resources you will need to develop in addition to the existing ones, and what will be the timeline to deliver those target services. And again, in terms of the time span, just don't expect it to happen within a month or 2. Our colleagues, for example, who are running this research in Singapore, they estimated that it can take around 1 or 2 years to develop some solid service lines. But again, it depends on what you identified as those targets and how you're planning to proceed with your future path. Within this a quick guide report that you'll have the link to, we also identified some examples on the pathways that you might want to take. I will show you some of them a bit later on, but again, what I would really like to highlight that those are just the examples, and you need to look more specifically at your market, at the demand within your market, and at the skill sets that you have in order to estimate your own path and also the timeline for the execution of that plan. I would like to just pause and focus on the talent aspect here, because I think that that's something that quite often being underestimated, while it's, in my opinion, being the second, not the second, but equally important with the digitalization on your diversification journey. First of all, just look at your teams and make sure that your teams are supportive of the diversification journey. Look at the skills and what are the skills gaps that you have within your teams. There are so many sources of information that you can use to fill in those gaps. There are very many online courses, CPD material within within ACCA, within other organizations that can be used to fill in those gaps, digitalization, data analytics, even some specific areas such as, for example, ESG. You have available resources online that you can use at least at the initial stage of your journey to fill in those gaps. Another idea that I keep hearing from the practitioners that are on their diversification journey is partnering with universities. Just don't hesitate to reach out to universities, in particular in the current situation with the rising unemployment. The university students are looking for internship opportunities. They're looking to get some practical experience. You can offer them this experience. There are so many examples when technology students are being invited as interns to the practices, when they can contribute their knowledge of some technology and get the working experience. They can get the knowledge about the accountancy profession. They can understand how broad it can be, how many opportunities it can bring. So don't hesitate to speak to the universities. Don't hesitate to involve the students and interns. Also, a very important one is using cross-generational mentoring. I think it's essential to show that you value different types of experiences that you have within your teams. You might have some more senior team members who have the very deep technical expertise, while you can have some newer employees who have a very good understanding of use of technology, social networks that can help you communicating your new service offering or researching on the market needs. So don't hesitate to bring your teams together, and cross-generational mentoring that we describe more in detail in our other report, Careers in SMP, is used by very many practices. It helps you to show that you value different experiences. It helps you to also build your teams, but also it's very, very important on your way on building new service lines within your practice. And of course, continuous learning. It's very important, both for you as leaders of the practice, but also for your employees. You can never know everything, and just getting informed about the updates, understanding the market trends, understanding what your competitors are offering, what your peers are offering is very important to stimulate that growth and help you diversify your services. I just put on the screen some of the examples of the service lines that you might be interested in developing within your practice. I think one of the most common ones that I keep hearing from the SMPs is the technology consulting, in particular for the ones who've just recently gone through the digital transformation themselves. They have still very fresh memories about what has been done, what were the challenges, and that's why the practitioners are more and more eagerly providing this advice also to the SME clients. The use of applications, the use of different tools is very topical at the moment, in particular with the recent challenges that we were seeing with closures of the businesses when the businesses had to transform, sort of think the way they operate and use and implement new tools. Of course, data analytics, that's getting more and more important, and it goes very closely together with digitalization. You are getting more data, and the biggest question is what do you do with that data? How do you use it to make the businesses of your clients more efficient? How do you use it for the benefit of your own practice to develop the services and for the benefit of the prosperity of your client businesses? Well, there are some other examples. Virtual CFO, again, is getting very topical. That's the role that you can be offering as a strategic business advisor to your clients. Very often, small businesses don't have the financial capacity to hire professional CFO, while they need that expertise within the company to grow, to transform their business model. So you can be the one who are providing the virtual chief financial officer's role to a number of small businesses, in a way becoming a growth hub yourself for the businesses in your area, in your region, or, for example, in the niche industry that you're supporting. So I just put together a couple of slides that are illustrating on what could be the pathways towards developing those new service lines. For example, from a traditional SMP, going through digitalizing the processes, using of RPA, and then using of the analytics and providing the IT solutions relating to RPA. Again, this doesn't need to be that complex. You can just start from being a traditional SMP to helping the your clients' businesses to implement some digital solutions. But if you have the expertise on board on robotics, why not advising your clients on that? Again, there is another suggestion on a pathway towards risk management advisory. Again, that's something that's getting quite a lot of demand from small businesses. You can start with you can start with the statutory audit, then going to internal audit. Maybe as a transitional phase, you can use the scenario planning service just to plan how the businesses of your clients are going to evolve and develop in the future, and then going to risk management advisory through this intermediary stage. Again, you can learn more about those examples, about those scenarios in the quick guide that is available in the readings material. And I suggest that we go more into the practice now, and I hand over to Anastasia to share her experience on how your firm was diversifying, developing the additional value-added services. Thank you.
Thank you, Aleksandra, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks to the organizers for this wonderful opportunity to be here today and share our experience from Quantum. I'm Anastasia Chalkidou. I'm an ACCA member, and I'm the accounting director and co-founder of Quantum Business and IT Solutions, which is based in Athens, Greece. I will take you a bit through our story, because I think it's important, and actually our diversification lies a bit in our story as well. So this our story begins back in 2014 when me and my husband, George Kosnitsov, who is an IT expert, we decided to leave our individual careers in Greece and abroad, as you can see on the slide, and actually join forces and create something of ours, our own company, a small consulting firm that we initiated in Greece, in Athens, in difficult economic environment, as you can understand from the year I refer to. Quantum actually was founded on our vision for a more modern and coordinated provision of service for both sides of the accounting and IT services. And we aimed initially in our planning to create a premium service that would be affordable for other SMEs to have. This brings us actually to our to the core of our vision and our mission statement, as we like to say, the single point of contact, which is the initials that you can see, the SPOC, in the middle of the slide. And what we mean with a single point of contact, we want to embrace that in all our projects, a 360 degrees approach for an incorporated IT and accounting service that we try to provide to our customers, empowering actually them towards the digital era that we are all facing. And we are very glad and happy that we saw that actually 7 years ago, and we designed the single point of contact that nowadays is very useful for SMEs considering the COVID restrictions. And we don't stop there. As you can see in the bottom of the slide, we try to provide our training as well, because we strongly believe that informed entrepreneurs, informed SMEs owners can create sustainable businesses and can be resilient to difficulties that we face in the economic environment. And actually, this has proven very useful for our customers. The training that we like to provide throughout our service to the business owners and enabling them to embrace digitalization, understand what we are actually doing as accountants, and identify the added value that we provide to their own business. I will concentrate a bit in these three areas in our discussion today. For us, as you can see, they are homocentric circles. They come from the same center, these three circles, because we think that digitalization actually happens throughout the business. It's not something that it's a stage that you are going through and then you are done with it and move on. It's something that evolves throughout the process, throughout the expansion of the services that we provide. Business evolves, so does the way we do business in accounting. The new era, the new needs and new services that we identified actually came from the setup of our business. When we were setting up our business in 2014, it was a huge challenge for us, actually. And we learned a lot of lessons as becoming entrepreneurs as ourselves. We were actually during our first quest for funds to fund the first expansion of our business. And we have identified there the need from SMEs for business planning, for setting up budgets that were requested from the banks or from whoever would provide the funds to a small entity, as well as an analysis of the cost of these funds, how they can handle these funds and how they are and how its cost is deployed actually. So we saw there an opportunity for us, having this background in accounting and having in the team finance experts as well, which is the point that was raised both from Paul and Aleksandra, the human resource capital that we have in our businesses and how we can best exploit that. So we realized, okay, there is an area here that we can take advantage, create a new product, not only have the bookkeeping, the traditional tax returns, provision of services, but also incorporate some budgeting services and debt and capital advisory, which back then was really vital for businesses, for small businesses in Greece. I remind you that for the period from 2015 to 2019, Greece was under capital controls. So funding was really vital for small companies. And we needed to find solutions and proposals and prepare business plans that for our customers in order to be able to raise funds, either from Greece or from abroad. So this was an area where we concentrated and we realized that there was a huge need for such a service from the SMEs. And we concentrated a lot as well as a result of all that, with the data analytics, and of course the traditional accounting advisory was always there, and we improved even more our provision of service in that part as well. Digitalization, as I told you, was already a part of our business model since the beginning, since we had an in-house IT expertise brought to our service as well. So we had the ability to knock some doors in-house and ask on how we could digitalize our service a bit more, or what tools we could find out to reduce the time that we had to devote to several tasks. But still, when the client base started to increase around 2017, so 3 or 4 years after our establishment, we realized that the workload was becoming a bit difficult to handle. We needed more automations to be incorporated in our work, as well as a better use and let's say the better organization of the paperwork, actually, that we had to face. I think the colleagues from the audience will sympathize with me regarding the paperwork. So we consider vital to move more to cloud services and cloud accounting. We are using still, and we're always expanding in that area, a lot of cloud-based tools to exchange paperwork with our customers safely. Of course, we always take due care of cybersecurity, which is a huge issue as well in our work. And also, it was very important to be able to access it remotely as well, because and this was proven not only with the COVID pandemic. It was proven very useful when we were abroad or when we were working remotely from our office. We could instantly go into the cloud service and retrieve any information that we needed for a presentation or the preparation of a report. Apart from the digitalization, I spoke about automated communication, which was also very useful during 2020. We prepared and exchanged with our customers more than 30 newsletters during 2020, using online tools for these newsletters on updates regarding the fiscal measures of the government. And we have also used form-based communication for more than 15 times in order to gather all this information that we needed to submit to the government for the several aid programs that were active during 2020 and of course are still going on since the pandemic is still here with us. And all this effort and all this creativity that we put in our communication and our automated processes, of course, resulted in having also new ideas coming from the team here at Quantum. We have developed together with our IT services an application where we can upload simply a trial balance from the accounting books, and we can in a few seconds create a very beautiful and graphical presentation of our customers' financial figures in whichever point of the fiscal year that we are in. So we can provide instantly some a reporting platform, actually. We plan to open this up to our customers so that they have credentials and access this information for their own use, and be able to provide them and with this point, I go back to this informed entrepreneurs part that I mentioned before. We strongly believe that information and knowledge is of value if you share it. So the work that we do is very important for the SMEs customers that we have. So it's important to pass the message, to pass the value of what we are doing to them. And these tools help us a lot. Digitalization helps us a lot to pass this message, to inform them, to enable them take more informed decisions. This application, I'm proud to say, that was awarded in Greece, in the accounting awards in Greece. So I'm very happy that all this hard work and all this response actually to the customer needs was recognized for me and my team and our IT experts, of course, because we couldn't have done it without them. And the last part, apart from digitalization, is the corporate social responsibility. Giving back to the society was very vital and very important for us since our very first steps. We participated in a lot of pro bono mentoring for young entrepreneurs once we set up our company. And we have learned actually from their stories and from their questions where we could concentrate and what kind of services they were interested in. In Greece, there is, in the past 5 to 6 years, there is a great startup scene. A new system of startups is being built up. There is a lot of talent in many areas, in many provision of services or products. So there is continuous evolution in the mindset of the entrepreneurs. And when you are close to them, you learn to spot the needs that come up from this evolution, which is very important for us to diversify our business. In this quest for reaching out to the SMEs and listen to their needs, we actually came up with an industry that, to be honest, I didn't have in mind once we have set up the company, that this industry would be so much interested in our services and would need a lot of consulting work from accountants. This is a non-for-profit, actually, industry. And the small community-based non-for-profits that did a lot of work and provided a lot of services, particularly in the last 5 years in Greece. We were going through an economic crisis, and then you understand that the economy was having a difficult time in its recovery. Then we had the pandemic as well. So all these local community non-for-profits have raised a lot of funds, and they were very much in need of good consulting services, budgeting services, accounting advisory services. They usually have a lot of reporting to do towards their donors and the people that give their funds to them. So it's kind of a recurring service, actually, that we provide to them. There is a lot of word of mouth is a great part in this industry, because when you are very good at your service, one non-for-profit organization actually says and provides very good views to the other. And actually, we have reached nowadays, I think it's 40% of our annual turnover in the accounting services come from this industry. So you can understand the possibilities. It was, again, I'm telling you, it was an area that I couldn't imagine that there would be so much work for us to do. And to be honest, it's also a rewarding work, because you know that your service is part of a chain that will make our world a better place. So we are kind of having this ethical advantage when we cooperate with these people. We feel that we are fulfilling our societal role, which for accountants is very, very important and vital for the economy and the society as a whole. Of course, we continue our mentoring and pro bono initiatives in various industries, not only the non-for-profit ones. And to be honest, I think this is the best advertisement for an accounting office and for a service, to provide, to share your knowledge, to share your expertise for free, enables the users to come and find you afterwards and request for more, and perhaps be able to pay more, to be honest. to have your service, because they really appreciate the way you have approached them. Last but not least, it's sustainability reporting, which is also something new coming in our way, and we need to be prepared because there is a lot of work to do in that part as well. Key performance indicators, reporting again. I think there is a discussion around the world now regarding accounting standards for sustainability reporting and whether this should be set up, and the discussions are ongoing. So we need to keep pace with that as well, because it's coming, and it will be a new market, a niche market for us, to be honest. I think I have covered mainly my points. We'll finish with this very promising picture, and I would like to thank you for your attention. I would like to remind you of our superpower. We're accountants. We have a vital societal role. We're not only bookkeepers or tax advisors. We have a spectrum of services that we need to take advantage of. We have a lot of talent. We have a variety of knowledge, each one of us, and just test yourselves, and don't be afraid to take risks in order to make a change in our profession. So thank you for the moment, and I think I will give the floor back to Aleksandra and Paul.
Yes, thank you so much, Anastasia, for sharing, because I think that the practical experience, the practical example of someone who's just gone through this entire journey is something that really values. So thank you for sharing that. And I think that your experience in particular was working with the non-for-profit organizations could be very interesting for the region, of the SMPs who are joining us today, because I understand that the donor organizations are active, and there is a lot of external support for the non-for-profit organizations, and that's an opportunity as well. It's I know that sometimes it's just seen as a pure CSR, but actually that's a business opportunity as well. That's an opportunity to grow your teams, to develop the skills within your teams. So just really, that's an encouragement. Don't hesitate to look around, to analyze who are those donor organizations, who are those NGOs around you, identify their needs, and try to understand how you could be supporting them. And just a question from my side. I know that most probably many of those who are joining us today have the questions like, where do I start? So where would you recommend to start? What would be the first step from your practical experience?
From my experience, networking actually was the start of everything, because as I said from the beginning of our establishment in Greece, we considered important to reach out. We were two people that we were working abroad before starting the company, so we've a bit lost the connection with our local network. So we needed to revitalize that. Reach out to the local community and listen to the Greek people and listen to their needs and the Greek SMEs, and actually find out what they are looking for in an accountant. Okay, we had, I will speak for the accounting part, not for the IT part, obviously, but it kind of works for both of us. We reached out, we networked a lot through events that we participated in at the beginning. So each one in our sectors. We reached out, there was a lot going on with the startup scene, as I told you, so there were a lot of platforms that we could register and share our experience for free at the beginning. So our network started to expand. People started knowing about Quantum and what kind of services and what's new about us, actually. And we learned from them what actually they need. So we kind of took a parallel session, both for them and for us, to discover the opportunities that were ahead. I mean, networking is vital at that point when you know no one and you have to start from somewhere.
That's a great insight, Anastasia. And I just also thinking it's also good in analyzing what are the needs and what are the services needed, and just thinking of your experience with the return back home. I think there is also just thinking of the region who we are presenting for today. I think there are so many companies, also international companies, who are interested in entering to the markets where you are operating. So, and I think that's another potentially interesting service to provide to them, the local knowledge of the tax issues, of the legislation. So just look around. And another idea that I had also, as you mentioned, startups. There is a growing ecosystem of incubators and accelerators that are there to develop startups, and they could be a very interesting partner to offer your accountancy services as well. Definitely. So maybe for those participating today, just also look out at the incubation, acceleration programs around you, and that could be a good pathway to networking.
In Greece, back in 2015, it was the microcredit actually industry that was making baby steps. Mm-hmm. I've heard about microcredit when I was abroad, so I kind of knew what it was about, because people in Greece were a bit hesitant. I remind you, it was a difficult era economically in Greece, so they wouldn't know how to approach it. I mean, there was a need for microcredit, of course, since we were talking about capital controls and restrictions to access finance from the banks themselves. So microcredit organizations started to making baby steps in Greece. We approached one of them because we were in a quest for funds as well for our own company to expand and to advertise at that point. And that's how we had our first synergy, actually. We discussed with them on our vision for Quantum. They considered it, given our CVs and everything, a great opportunity and a great idea. So they said, why don't you share your story and, of course, your knowledge, if you want, with the other applicants for microcredit. So that's kind of created a first small circle. And this circle created more circles. And we are happy to say that we have expanded, and we already have more than 10 people in our team, and we are still growing. Remember that we started only me and my husband. So for us, it's a huge change to enter an office with 12 people. And we're very proud of it. And I'm telling you, it's a matter of going out there, reaching out to people and listen to them. It's a very, very important step. And we try to embrace it continuously in our business. We from time to time, we have discussions with our customers, the new ones, the older ones. What is it that you need, actually? Is there something new that you are facing in your industry and you would like us to, provide our service a bit differently or diversify a bit what we are doing for you? So it's very important to take the vibe from the market and adapt as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Anastasia. Maybe just the very last question before we go to the Q&A itself. I know you were mentioning that you used many tools that are available, because I think one of the biggest questions is, all right, well, maybe we're not having enough budgets to invest into our digitalization, into the use of all of those tools. Maybe you can recommend some of the tools that helped you to start offering those services. I know that there are some online tools that are for free, so maybe that's something that you could share with the audience.
Definitely. I will share in our chat box here some links. Most of them, if not all of them, are free, at least for some period to test them. There is a variance actually of applications and websites where you can find information. I have sent it in the chat box. Probably you might all be able to see. We have Google Workspace, where you have a wealth of tools. Most of them are free online, at least for a number of users or for one user, a demo one. so you can check what is useful for you and adapt it. There is a great initiative from Facebook that I discovered. I didn't know it existed. I discovered it in another event that I joined as a panelist. And I'm sharing here with you about women entrepreneurs, networking and social media tools that they can use to promote their business, which is also very important for accountants as well. We tend to forget that we're a business as well, so we need to get out and advertise our services or our diversified services, if you want, why we are different from the others. We have the MailChimp for newsletters, which is the platform we are using, and it's free for, I think, 1,500 recipients. So it's a huge number for a small entity, and we can do work with that. There are a lot of project management tools, which are very, very useful in order for us to keep track of the work that we are doing, especially for the consulting services tasks that we undertake. Clockify, which is also time management tool. Again, everything is free. WebEx, which is the platform for teleconferencing, and it's also free. And at the end, I have a podcast, a very interesting podcast from ACCA, actually, that I followed a few weeks ago. And it kind of summarizes accounting applications that are available. And actually, it's SMPs presenting these applications, and they explain how useful it was for their business and how they help them diversify their service. So I think it might be useful for our audience to listen to it. It's in English. Perhaps as I did, I went through each one of the applications I was listening to see what it was about, and I was really excited for some of them. And I started thinking of incorporating them in, especially for the forecasting parts. They're very, very good tools around for that part of the service that we provide.
Thank you, Anastasia.
Anastasia, thank you very much. Before I hand over to Irina, if I may just make a few comments. I mean, I was really captivated, Anastasia, by your story, your journey. It was very fascinating, and I think it demonstrates as well that the journey that SMPs will take, they will all go on a different journey, a different pathway. No two journeys will be the same. Some will take the high road, some will take the low road, some will take the middle road. Obviously, for you, it's very convenient that your husband was an IT expert. So that's perhaps a suggestion that we should all go out and marry or partner an IT person. That might set things up just nicely for us. It was really encouraging to hear your views about how the small and medium-sized accountancy practice can contribute in a positive way to society. I think it's fabulous that you've been able to offer such valuable services to the not-for-profit sector, and have generated, of course, revenue from it as well. So it's a great win-win scenario. You know, of course, small and medium practices, when they get into the business advisory space, they're helping the prosperity, the future prosperity and performance of small business. Small business employs people. Those businesses pay wages, and that is, of course, of itself a great social benefit. In terms of the future new services, you touched on sustainability information and reporting, and I can confirm from the work that I do in connection with the European Union that in the coming few years, I think you're likely to see, certainly across European Union member states, and I dare say Eastern Partnership countries too, a great increase in the voluntary provision of non-financial information or sustainability reporting. And that will generate business and work for small and medium-sized practices, because all of a sudden the SME will say, I don't want you just to do my financial reporting. I want you to help me with a non-financial report too. And the small practices, I think, are in a perfect position to be able to offer that service as well. I think with that, Irina, if we can hand over to you, because I think you've got a few questions for the panelists, or indeed for myself.
Thank you, Paul, Aleksandra, Anastasia. It's been really an eye-opener. Fantastic information that we received, and the story, your practical story, it's really exciting. I was captivated as well. And I agree with Paul that you are lucky to have a husband who is really an IT geek, and it gives this perfect synergy for your business. I think that it was also very encouraging to hear that thinking outside of box, it will help both others and yourself, your business. So it's really what needs to be done to survive and to help the society as well. Well, we do have several questions which are in, but I would also like to ask you a couple of questions. Well, as we have heard today and from our previous sessions, of course, the key aspects for the transformation are digitalization, leveraging of technology, and business diversification. Now, I would like to ask you about sequencing. In your opinion, do you imagine that these two should be done in lockstep together, or more one after the other? For example, should SMPs first absolutely digitalize and then diversify? So what do you think about that? Over to you.
I think it's a process done in parallel. I mean, it's not something that I can, even in our story, it was done in parallel. I don't think we can separate them and do the first and then the second one. You identify things as you're doing business. You identify things that you can digitalize, and vice versa. You digitalize and then you identify new services that you can provide, perhaps, or diversify something that you're already doing by incorporating a digital part in it. So I think they are holding hands and they are moving in parallel. And I could not imagine something, separated from the other. For us, it's working in parallel, and we are constantly trying to follow the developments in our industry, in accounting services, such as the sustainability, which is an upcoming part of the market that we should be prepared to face. And at the same time, the developments in the digital part of our service. So all the things that we can invent, as you realize from the application, things that we have identified through the process that we can set up and try to digitalize our service. So it's kind of a parallel route.
Makes perfect sense. Paul, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, I'm certainly not going to disagree with the expert, because Anastasia has actually done it. And obviously for her practice, she's done the two together in lockstep simultaneously. I do know that the work that ACCA did with the Singaporeans that was referenced by Aleksandra, incidentally, that quick guide, we have translated it into Georgian, and we do have the reference at the end of this PowerPoint presentation, so that you can just click and go to that document. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Aleksandra, that they suggested that maybe if it was one or the other, you would digitalize first, then diversify. I guess that they had perhaps a slightly different view of things, but clearly working in lockstep has worked out very well for Anastasia.
Yeah, Paul. Well, as you mentioned, we do have this suggestion in our reports, in our quick guide developed by our colleagues. But again, it very much depends on where you are. For example, if someone is just starting with a practice, it's not worth starting with a paper-based procedures. They're just starting immediately with the digitalized tools, and consequently, they can start diversifying progressively their practices. If we speak about for example, traditional practices that were there for years, sometimes what I hear, they keep developing two practices in parallel. So start from scratch with some of the clients with all the cloud-based tools and with all the digitalized processes, and gradually transition the clients who've been on the paper procedure to step by step to the digital procedure. Of course, it all very much depends on where you are, on your context, but I wouldn't see it as unless you digitalize, because as Anastasia mentioned, it's an endless process. You just start with digitalizing one process, and you can already start thinking of diversifying at that stage.
And if I may add, it's a matter also of how business is done in various areas of the planet. I mean, other people are more literate with the use of technology. For example, the Singaporean colleagues might be a bit more literate with that, while us in Greece or the colleagues in Georgia might be in a different pace with technology, or we're just investing in technology and new tools. So it's kind of a cultural thing as well in this part, and where you are exploiting your business in the planet. I mean, it's a kind of that part as well.
Thank you. I will now read a question from the audience, and the question is to Anastasia, it is the following. So which audit software your company is using? Well, and then if it's available in Georgia, you wouldn't know that, but maybe you could elaborate on which audit software you use.
It's a software that is available only in Greece, I'm afraid, because it's a Greek one. It's a Greek company that develops it. It's EpsilonNet. So I think it's not available abroad. But still, yeah, I think there is a wealth of offerings around the world. I mean, even in the podcast, I think there are applications that are mentioned related to audit. Of course, there is a lot of information as well on the ACCA website from previous researchers around this matter, or we can share afterwards. I mean, there is a lot of a wealth of technology around the world. So I don't think it's the kind of software that makes the difference, to be honest. It's the accountant behind the software.
Of course.
And the auditor, yeah.
And if I just may add from the ACCA perspective, like the good source to look for the examples of software that is being used is the Passionate Practitioner report. We also have it in the readings list. So you have the examples, the case studies from different SMPs, and you have the examples there.
Yeah, and if I may just add as well, Anastasia, you mentioned those additional readings, references, in particular that podcast. Maybe what I can do subsequent to this presentation is update the slides so that the slide deck that is made available and circulated to the participants and hosted on the SARAS website can include those references.
Thank you. And the next question is about the revenues. Which services recorded the highest revenue growth in 2020? Well, I guess the question is asked globally. It's not specified, but you would not know certainly Georgian context. So Do you have any of you information on the global side, or maybe in your countries?
It's really, I mean, if I may pick it up, unfortunately I don't have the data in my hand in terms of like global services, and in particular in the SMP field, because it can be very different from bigger practices, bigger companies to the SMPs. I may try to find something out. You have my email address, so don't really hesitate to email to me, and I'll try to find it. But as you were mentioning, Irina, and something that we were also discussing previously, that you need to look at your market, because global data may be very different to the currently existing demand within your market and the value of the services within your market. So always look at your data, and more specifically, either at the industry you're focusing on or at even the region where you're operating.
Right. I think the question stems from the fact that pandemic changed everything. So in light of pandemic, did something really change? Did something become under spotlight, something specific which could be of interest? Paul, you wanted to add, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to say that obviously COVID-19, what happened this time last year was an awful lot of SMEs were desperately trying to hang on. They were running out of cash very quickly. A number of them, especially in the hospitality sector, hotel, catering, etc. All of a sudden, they had no revenue. So liquidity was key. The ability to effectively, efficiently manage their cash was critical. They were looking for alternative sources of finance. The accountants often stepped in to advise their clients on what schemes, government schemes, other schemes were available to offer money. They often stepped in to recalibrate budgets and cash flow forecasts. They did a whole lot of stuff around that to help ensure the continuity of the small business. More broadly, I think there was a lot of business continuity offerings where small and medium-sized practices said, well, okay, this is the current situation. It's pretty tough going out there. But here's various things that you can do and I can help you with in order to help you navigate these troubled waters. Now, obviously, 1 year on, things are a little bit different today. And in the coming months, with more widespread vaccination, we can anticipate these SMEs coming out of these dire financial constraints and starting to recover and grow. And the emphasis in Europe, the European Union at least, will be on building back better. And by that, they see two main themes. One is digitalize what you're doing. And as Anastasia is doing, she is advising her SME clients on how to digitalize. She and her husband have done it themselves with their own practice. They've learned an awful lot, and they're now sharing that expertise with their SME clients and showing them how they can accelerate the digitalization of their businesses. The other aspect, the second theme in the European Union, is that of sustainability. The European Union has a Green Deal, and huge amounts of money in the coming years are going to be invested in trying to ensure and pivot the European economy towards a more sustainable model. And that will demand small and medium-sized practices advising their clients on sustainable business practices. It will involve their SME clients possibly producing reports on sustainability for their SME clients. Obviously not sophisticated, super large reports that you'd expect big businesses to do, but things tailored in a much more scalable fashion for their SME clients.
Paul, if I may add to something what you mentioned on sustainability, I would say that, like, from our observations, it even goes broader than only the European Union, because there is a growing amount of requirements from the investors and the supply chain, also to the small and medium-sized companies outside of the European Union, but working with the European Union. So it's starting to get more and more topical in the EU, but I'm sure that the wave is also coming to the neighboring countries, and that's something to consider. And that's definitely, I would say, an opportunity to consider for the SMPs. And just to add, not to do the promotion, but just to add in understanding what it is, within the practice room, we have also sessions that are devoted to sustainability and understanding how you as a practitioner can embrace this opportunity. So again, check out our calendar and join the discussions, because you can get those first ideas on how to start there.
I would dare to say that this kind of reporting for SMPs will be very important for them to raise funds in the future. So they will need to embrace it in their own financial reporting, and so to embrace non-financial factors and their footprint in the environment and all this information that comes in, and it will be vital for them in order to be able to raise funds. So let's try to prepare them from now for the future.
Well, thank you very much. We have now received so many pieces of advice and heard this success story, practical success story, that it really raised my own appetite to open my small business of providing consultancy services. And well, thank you for this wonderful time spent together with our participants, and for being so open and sharing your experiences. I think we don't have that much time left. We are running quite late. I know that there might be much more questions, but we will be picking up on the following topics. On the 20th of May, be advised that we will cover the topic of networks, mergers, and acquisitions. I know that participants and SMPs are looking forward to these topics. And we will have a guest speaker, Anthony Gomez, who is the president of Oran International, and who will share some practical advice on that matter. Paul, would you like to say a few words?
I guess all I wish to do is just thank once again Anastasia and Aleksandra for their contributions today. I feel like I've learned an awful lot, and like you, Irene, I feel inclined to go away and open up my own small and medium-sized practice, possibly offering sustainability services, because I've got not so much expertise in digital. Certainly my wife is not a digital consultant, at least. The only other remark for the benefit of the people that have joined us today across the Eastern Partnership country, in particular from Georgia, is the video recording and the slides will be available on the Saras website. So do please look out for that. You will also find in the slide deck that we share a series of readings and references. The ones on the so that all of these are hyperlinked and they'll be made available, and you can just click and go straight to the document. These were already translated into Georgian. There are some that are only available in English, and Anastasia has promised to add a few of her own free resources that she's aware of. So we'll update the slide deck before we share it with you. So with that, I'm done. I thank all of you for joining us today, and I hope to see you all again on the 20th of May.
Thank you, as I said, to our guest speakers, but also for our wonderful translators who did a great job today. And thank you to the participants who listened up. We had a lot of participants, and I do hope you learned, as I did, from our speakers today. Thank you, and have a great day.